These pictures are from our affiliate in Pittsburgh, WTAE.
From this vantage point, I don't know if they've apprehended the suspect yet.
Nina, to clarify what Bill just told you there, because I was getting a little bit of breakup on the phone, he said that the man took one of the billers in their office and a technician, 2 people or 3 people, and took them into a back room?
Yes, according to this witness, Scott, he took 3 people by force with a .22 caliber handgun into the back room, but let some people that were also in the office go, and he held those people for a short amount of time. They're sitting here on the curb with me, and he let them go a short time later.
So the people that he initially took hostage in that doctor's office, the billers and technicians that he referred to, he then did let go.
Yes, he did. They're sitting right here on the curb.
But the question, the unaccounted for people, and we don't know, they may be in some other safe area now, would be the doctor and the office manager and another assistant who they have not seen come out of that office.
That's true. And the office is part of a large building, Scott, and there's several other facilities in there. There's some residents in there, I believe, Bill, and there's also an she had Alzheimer's, and the people that came out were wondering if they got out okay. Some people are wheelchair-bound, Scott, in the building.
Certainly, and see if you can get a better idea, Nina, about the daycare situation, where it would be, on what floor it would be in that facility from that witness. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk everyone through what we're seeing now from Sky 4, just over the scene.
Where is he?
Our first indications, our first video actually from over the scene. We've had the ground video. This is live video now over the situation there, and we're zooming in on the situation, that parking lot, I believe along West Street, and as the camera will kind of pull back, we're going to get a better perspective about what we've been talking about this last half hour of the multiple shooting situation in the heart of Wilkinsburg, the old Columbia Hospital, now the Penn West Medical Building. So in the foreground, right above the word live, you see the McDonald's. That sits right along Penwood Avenue. You see the railroad track overpass along the bottom of the situation. It may have started in that McDonald's.
We're going now to our local coverage from WPXI in Pittsburgh. This, once again, is as it is going on the air in that Pennsylvania city.
Has covered many scenes like this, unfortunately, but is well experienced in what goes on in this type of situation. Is live now in Chopper 11. And Andy, at this particular point, it appears that the police now have gotten into a waiting game with this suspect.
I would say that's the correct way to put this right now, Bob. They have remained around the Penn West office building, which we identified earlier as a professional building for doctors and other medical personnel. We can assume there's probably no less than 24 police cars that remain around the Penn West office building for an entire block, covering all directions, north, south, east, and west. And many of these vehicles have officers outside taking cover behind those vehicles with weapons drawn. So it is a tense situation. It remains that. Their hope, obviously, is that the suspect, if they're accurate about him being inside the Penn West office building, in fact, will take the wiser course and give up, rather than try to take shots at police here or take a hostage and increase the tragedy here that we're already dealing with. But again, that area right around Penn West remains cordoned off. Police are on every corner, on every side street. There is no access to the McDonald's where the shootings occurred, and people are being kept out of the area, both on foot, and of course any traffic that would otherwise be coming into this area has been rerouted. This remains a live crime scene area.
This developing story in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, just outside Pittsburgh, where police have sealed off an area looking for a gunman who shot a number of people this morning at a fast food restaurant. Details as they become available throughout this day. But for right now, I'm Gene Randall in Washington, and we'll go to Burden of Proof.
What is the condition of some of these people? Are they mobile, able to get
These are people who have dementia or are in wheelchairs because they've had strokes.
And what is your fear right now? You were able to...
I would like to know that everyone got out all right, that's all.
Did you see them come out with you?
I did not see anyone come out. No, I didn't. They could have gone out the back. There's a back entrance.
And you were taken out under police cover?
Yes, police covered us coming out. And I came out the front door. It was frightening.
All right, these people are very shaken up, Scott. They were the people I was talking about live. They inched their way between the cars here, so she is still concerned about the patients inside.
Clearly, and this gives us another pivotal piece of information, learning this was an adult daycare center, not a children's daycare center, and obviously a terrifying situation for the people who are inside there, especially those suffering from dementia, who may have had strokes. Do we know, Nina, if you're still with me on the phone, if the gunman actually entered that daycare facility, or was the only report that we have in another medical facility?
Actually, the daycare center faces, am I right, Nancy, the front of West Avenue, and it's on the first floor. The doctor's office, Bill Simonton's office, was in the backside. So it seemed that the gunman entered the backside, the doctor's office. He never actually entered the adult daycare center.
Okay. Was that doctor's office also on the first floor?
Yes, it is, but it is in the rear of the building.
Get a count here, just as we're getting a sense of that building. How many floors are we talking about in all?
Maybe we'll go over to the sidewalk here. I'm still standing on the sidewalk with about 10 people that were escorted to safety. It looks like a 5-story building, Scott. 4 stories and a basement. And the police, actually SWAT has just moved onto this street, which is perpendicular to West Avenue. And they still have their shields drawn, so I'm assuming that the gunman is still inside.
Okay, and again, the children that we saw then were not from any daycare center inside. They were children who may have been in the parking lot with adults, and they have been moved back to safety as well.
Actually, they have been moved so far out of the perimeter, Scott, we can't even locate them.
Okay. Now give me, as you said,
what we're seeing now is some SWAT members coming this way and moving actually outside the perimeter and cutting down into an alley. They no longer have their weapons drawn, so I don't know if they're moving the search to a different area now.
But they're moving without weapons drawn.
That is correct.
Now, when you say, and I'll see if the people on Sky 4 can kind of zero in on the building now. We may be able to watch as the officers make their movements there. Is this an alley that would be midway in that block between Penn Avenue and the road that's in back of this complex?
It's actually right off the parking lot, Scott, and they're down around the garage area right now and looking like they're looping back around towards the parking lot. So I don't know if they're receiving information on their videos about where the suspect may have gone, but now they're actually cutting in behind someone's backyard and jumping over a fence.
I see, trying to get a perspective from all the different angles. I do know that one thing that to make clear what Scott Stiller said about West Street running parallel, West does intersect Penn Avenue, and it also then kind of makes a right turn and parallels it for a part. But again, right now it looks like the gunman who is, and we think right now we're talking about a single gunman. There may have been somebody else with a gun back at that McDonald's parking lot, but we've not heard about any other situation where he may have moved on and be involved in this at this point. The person is in the building along West Street on this block between West and South Trenton. And the word that we heard in the last interview situation from Nina is there were at least 10 patients in the adult daycare center there, people who've suffered from strokes, who need constant care, certainly not in great degrees of mobility or in a manner to have their wits about them to respond if they were not being given active care. So there's concern for them. They may have gotten out the back because there are 2 entrances. But what we do know is that the man went into a medical office on the first floor of this 5-story building. He grabbed several of the people who worked in that office, the clerking staff, a technician, took them into another room, sent out the other people who were in that office, and then at some point let those people go as well. But there seemed to be some uncertainty about the doctor in that office and the manager in that office, and so we don't know if he's continuing to hold those hostage. Last we heard from Wilkinsburg police, they were considering this a hostage situation. Now, to get an idea of what we're learning about the victims, we had heard 1 person critical at Mercy Hospital. Sean Yancey had seen at least 4 ambulances leaving the scene. Ted Coppy is now in place at UPMC. Ted, what are you hearing there?
Well, Scott, right now it's a very busy situation here at UPMC Presby Hospital. We're told that they have 5 of the patients, 5 of the victims brought here into the emergency room. However, the hospital is not releasing any conditions right now. And I do know, as you mentioned, from Mercy Hospital, at least 1 critical there. A spokesperson says they may have 3 or 4 more on the way to Mercy Hospital. I also spoke with Allegheny General Hospital this afternoon. They say they're on standby. Not sure if they're going to get any victims themselves, but they're certainly waiting and standing by. Meantime, as I mentioned, things very busy busy here at UPMC Presby. We're going to have more information as soon as it becomes available for all of you. I'll send it back to you now, Scott.
Okay, Ted, thank you for that. One thing that we should point out, some people may be wondering why would they be rushing people off to the hospitals in the heart of Oakland when there's a hospital right down the street. Well, that is the old Forbes Metro location. It is now part of the life care system, and it does not operate an emergency room, so they're not set up for triage. So even though people in the history of that location may remember Forbes Metro in operation there, just a block or two down the shooting scene, it is not a functioning emergency room, a functioning hospital to handle this kind of situation. Thus, what we learned to show you the seriousness of this situation, that we know of at least one person in critical condition at Mercy. They're on standby to get more, and Ted Coppy telling us that there are 5 people at Presby. Jim Parsons standing by live at the scene to tell us what he's seeing. Jim, you're in the Eckerd parking lot. What are you watching?
Scott, I'm getting out of the way of the camera right now because we're watching more would-be hostages or hostages, not sure which, coming out of this building.
I guess they marched out.
Yeah, they're being marched out by police at this moment, and you're looking right now across Penn Avenue, east of Penn Avenue, the back of the Penn West building, which most people know as Wilkins' house as they're driving by on Penn Avenue. I'm told by police that are on the scene here that there are still some children inside in the daycare center, which is up on the 3rd or 4th floor.
Oh, Jim, now let's clarify on that point because it's a critical one, because I'm going to stop you right here. Two things. One, we saw the line of people marched out, hands on heads. Yeah. That does not necessarily mean they are suspects or that they are not. They just mean people being moved out of the building and police uncertain about who's who, just making them taking each step at a time here, correct?
That's exactly right. It's very confusing, and you know, Wilkinsburg police obviously are in charge of the situation, but you can see a heavy presence of Pittsburgh police as well at the scene right now, Scott. And so, you know, information is difficult to come by and sketchy. Let us tell what we have heard, and we caution by saying that this information is not yet confirmed, but we're hearing from police officers and also from witnesses here in Wilkinsburg is that this may have started. This may have all started in an apartment building on Wood Street in Wilkinsburg, across from the food bank on Wood Street earlier today at a place called the Woodview Apartments, that this gunman went in there, shot someone in an apartment, and then torched the place, set the place on fire. Now,
that would fit. We heard about a fire on Wood Street.
We did, and apparently this is where it started. Then the gunman worked his way on foot, apparently, down Penn Avenue, stopped at the Burger King. There was apparently some shots fired at the Burger King. Scott, you may know more about that at this point than I do. Then went to the McDonald's where several people were also shot before he moved to this apartment slash office building called Penn West. That's what we know at this point. Scott, do you have a total number of people shot? Because there seems to be some confusion here on the scene about that.
Jim, I do, and obviously we've been talking to you and to Sean Yancey and to Ted Coppy and to Nina Pineda and to witnesses as well, so I'll be able to fill in some of the things that we're at least hearing here. Maybe you can check them out as well. What we heard from Ted Coppy is that Presby has 5 people hit.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Scott, let me interrupt you for a second.
Absolutely.
I just watched 2 police officers run into the building. Gary, zoomed in right now on the sign that says Penn West building. Okay, that is where we just saw 2 officers run into. Gary, if you'll take a shot down the sidewalk, you'll just see another officer, just missed him, running down the sidewalk there, just went into the building. So
we saw from the helicopter shot, Jim, a large vehicle, looked like a tractor trailer moving down West Street. Was that just a vehicle? Okay.
We've been moved back, and the new perimeter has been set up. We keep getting moved back further and further.
Now, one important thing that you said, I really want to clarify here, because we had been worried about a daycare. Then we heard that it was an adult daycare facility on the 1st floor with 10 adult patients inside. Well, but you're hearing that there's a children's daycare on the 3rd or 4th floor.
I just heard one Pittsburgh police officer on a radio with his chief saying that we are getting ready, and this was about 10 minutes ago, saying we are getting ready to move people out of the daycare on the 4th floor. And I heard that 10 minutes ago. Whether those are children in there or adults in there, I don't know. We've also heard that in this building there's an adult probation office in this building.
There is as well. Now, you've given us a good timeline that fits together with some of the reports that we had along the way, because Kevin, who was the Eckerd drugstore manager, was the first one who said he didn't know if the fire on Wood Street was connected to the situation. But you're learning that this may have all started there on Wood Street with a shooting and then an actual attempt to torch the place.
Exactly, and again, that's not confirmed, but that is information that folks are talking about. You can see here, Gary, if you move over to the left a little bit, Pittsburgh police again asking us to move further and further back. They're saying that right now we are in the direct line of fire. That at the moment we're in a direct line of fire. That would seem unlikely because the gunman, from what we were told, was at the back of this building, but police say this corner here is where the gunman is facing at the moment.
All right, well then we're going to let you go and get to a situation, a steadier vantage point as we're seeing the live video from Jim Parsons on the police wanting to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible until they absolutely have the gunman in custody. We're getting a much better idea of exactly the sequence of events, and we've talked to a number of witnesses. Let's hear from what we're getting from the latest from those witnesses.
I don't know. I mean, but what did they tell you? Get out of the building.
When? Were you cordoned off at some point?
No, we were just in meetings and told right now to get out.
And what did they say to you?
They told us to get down.
Did they explain anything that was happening to you?
We kind of figured it out. And we know that the man's holding hostages next door. So they told us to get out.
So it's not actually in your building, but it's in the building next door.
The buildings are kind of connected. Not that we can walk through, but they are physically connected.
And you just, at what point did you realize today? I mean, obviously you saw this activity.
I was going to leave at 11:30 to go to a meeting, and I was starting to walk down the hall, and one of my coworkers came in and said, "You can't go out. Somebody's just been shot at McDonald's and everything's off."
All right, witnesses telling you what they saw, what they heard at the situation in Wilkinsburg. Sky 4 right now along the railroad tracks, over the railroad tracks. We do have one bit of information that updates what we were hearing, or at least clarifies the situation. At the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, Presby, they are reporting 4 patients that they have. Mercy Hospital reporting 1 patient, and that was the only patient we were getting a condition report on. That condition critical at that point. We don't know about the situation with the people. I want to go back to Scott 4. Scott Stiller is there. Scott, you know, as we're just getting some of this information together, I wonder if you could take us away from the McDonald's scene where we see the arches there and back on the other side of the track, see if it's a spot we may have started along Wood Street, where there may have been a fire scene. I don't know if there are fire trucks still on that scene, but Jim Sims was that this may have begun with a shooting and an attempt to torch that place. Scott, are you able to kind of get a pivot around to that situation on Wood Street?
No, I can't right now, Scott. There's some air traffic up here that we're dealing with.
I understand.
But right now, bear with us. As soon as we can get it for you, you'll have it.
All right, and Jim Parsons was saying that he saw SWAT teams or SWAT members moving in movement, in fluid situation. Let's go back to Jim Parsons now. Thank you, Scott. We'll come back to you. Jim Parsons back at the scene. Jim.
We've been asked to move back again by Pittsburgh police. So,
I understand that.
And you know from covering these over the years that when police, after a period of a half an hour, when you're fine standing where you are and all of a sudden you're being told to move back, that sometimes can be an indication that something's about to happen. We don't know that to be the case right here, but Gary, can you zoom in on these 2 vehicles? If you see that that Toyota Land Cruiser that's moving in here, those are police officers. I know that the red car in front of that contains a canine German Shepherd, because I stood next to that vehicle earlier and he was barking at me. So I know that there's a dog in there. I don't know if that means they're planning on using canine here to try and bring this suspect out of the building.
Now, tell us where you're standing exactly, Jim. Are you along West Street? And
no, we are on Penn Avenue.
You're up
on Penn
Avenue.
What you're looking at right now is we're in the parking lot of the Eckert's, the brand new Eckert's drugstore on Penn Avenue, and we're looking down West Street.
Down across the street there.
I have Sean Nancy here with me too, and she's talked to some different folks than I have. Perhaps she's got something to share with us, Sean.
There was some concern earlier that there is a daycare center in this building, and I talked with a mother a little while ago. She was on her cell phone, and she actually called into the daycare center to see if her child was all right. From what she has been told, the kids are inside and they are fine right now, but that's what we're hearing, at least about the kids inside the building for right now.
So you've confirmed that there are children. Actually, there's a daycare center with children inside the building, and they're still inside.
There was a mother with her cell phone, and she actually called in to see if the kids were okay, and she was told everything was all right. So that's what we know about the kids so far.
That would make sense, Scott, as to what the police officers may be about to do here. Remember I said we heard earlier, I heard a police officer talking to a chief on the radio saying we're getting ready to move the children out of the daycare center. We're keeping an eye open for any movement at the front of the building. From the other hostages who have come out of this building, Scott, it would seem that they would be coming our way. So we'll keep our eyes open.
And we know, Jim, and that does help clarify, because obviously we were concerned right at first about a children's daycare that may be involved, and then we heard that it was an adult daycare. So we may now have 2 different daycare situations, one on the first floor and then one up on the 3rd or 4th floor that may involve children, but apparently the parents being told that everybody's okay in there.
Correct.
Let me ask you, Jim, what about the people that we saw being marched out of the building with their hands on their heads? And we saw that live. I don't have tape to go to of that at this point. Where did they take those people?
I did not witness that, Scott, and
all right.
so I don't know. I don't want to be in a position where I'm asking you what you saw,
right,
but
right.
That was apparently on a different side of the building than one I witnessed. I saw citizens coming out of the building with definitely not their hands on their head, and they were running. If you saw folks with hands on their head, they may have been suspects, but I just don't have information on that.
And what before when we had to stop talking to you the last time, as police were moving you back and we lost the live shot for a time, we were talking about the victims.
You see two police officers going across the street right now, Scott. Let me interrupt. Gary, move over. Gary, move over here. There you go. Here we go. Here we go.
More people coming out.
Okay, we are right now, Scott, watching folks coming out of the building with hands on their head.
Now, this could be happening, Jim, as police secure different sectors of a very large building, 5 stories, a number of different offices, perhaps a parole center, a welfare center, a senior center, daycare operations. We know about the AIDS counseling center that's in there, some doctor's offices as well. And so it's probably not far off to say that we could be talking about hundreds of people in different parts of this building.
Yeah, Scott, I was just watching there, and I didn't see any children. Of course, you've got the advantage of a zoom lens, and I can't see that at the moment, but did you see any children coming in? They all look like adults to me.
It did not look like children. It looked like adults to me, but it might make sense if they are talking about a 5-story building. If the children's daycare was on the 3rd or 4th floor, if they maybe, as they move up the building, getting closer to them.
Scott, it looks to me like there might be some more folks coming out, the way the police officers are still, okay. Gary, if you take a look down, you'll see someone running. You'll see an officer running across the sidewalk at this point. It looks like there may be some more folks coming out at the moment. Let's watch and see what we see.
We were talking, Jim, about SWAT team members, Wilkinsburg police, I imagine state police as well.
Yeah, you've got state police out here. You've got county police. We've got Edgewood police. This is obviously a crisis situation, and all hands on deck is the attitude.
But we don't know if there's been any contact with this man. They described it as a hostage situation, but you've gotten no indication that they have had any kind of phone connection to
again, Scott, when I first arrived on the scene, it was over an hour ago. It was right, it was minutes after this gentleman, this gunman, went into this building, and the officers at that time, before negotiators arrived, it was just regular officers with their guns drawn were yelling into the building at him. And we did see some blinds moving in the part of the building that one lieutenant from the Wilkinsburg Police Department told us he was at. Scott, we're being moved out of the scene, out of this area again by police. We're going to have to move back.
All right, and Jim, actually at a good juncture too, I'll ask you to hold on as you try to find a more secure location there along West Street. We've been hearing witnesses on tape. We've been talking to some on the phone. Let's go to the latest that we have from the scene, from the people who actually saw what was happening.
On the street, and I can't get home, and they won't let me go out. I've been here for 30 minutes, but I haven't been, when it first started, but they won't let me go home. Well, I'm sorry, my family lives down the street, and I'm concerned about my husband and my son, because he doesn't watch the news. He don't know. He'll take them for a walk, and they always walk up here because he takes them to McDonald's, and I can't get home to let him know don't take the baby outside or anything.
Have you tried to call them?
Yeah, and he's not in.
Very concerned.
Yeah, because my baby. I'm sorry. I just want to get home because I live like Kelly and West, so down the street. It's like a 3-minute walk. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I just want my family. I'd rather be in the house with my family than be out here.
Back to Sky 4, frustration and fear, the words in Wilkinsburg right now. Certainly residents in this several block areas surrounding the shooting scene have to be very nervous about what's gone on, very concerned that the situation is not resolved. Here now we're approaching maybe 90 minutes after the first reports. The first reports may involve, as we've learned, what seemed at first to maybe be something that wasn't connected, a fire in a home along Wood Street, but now it looks like there may have been a shooting that preceded that fire. Jim Parsons then learning that the gunman may have moved down Penn Avenue. Perhaps, even though we had reports that there was a shooting in the McDonald's, he may have stopped at the Burger King, which is at the kind of further down that street, and then come back to the McDonald's. Patrons in the McDonald's telling us they saw men arguing in the parking lot, guns drawn, shots fired. We've seen ambulances leaving that situation, at least 4. We know that there are 4 people at Presby. We know that there is 1 person in critical condition at Mercy. The woman that we heard being interviewed there was clearly in the parking lot the delicatessen, the Crossroads and the Dunkin' Donuts that sit across the street from the Eckerd drugstore, concerned about her family in some of the homes and apartments that line this area. Wilkins House, a senior residence, is a building that is actually connected to the Penn West building where we believe the gunman is inside, but there is no internal passageway between the two. So residents are simply being told to stay in their rooms. We've had reporters at the scene who have seen them looking nervously out of their windows. And obviously, as they've moved our crews back, as they've tried to expand the perimeter here, for those who are like right on top of this situation, perhaps staying as far away from windows might be a good idea at this point. And we have to be concerned about the kids that may still be in the sign inside. And Nina, as you're not able to hear everything that's going on, what we did learn from Jim and Sean Yancey is, yes, there is that adult daycare center on the first floor, but there is also a children's daycare that may be on a floor higher up in that building. Nina, what else are you learning right now?
Scott, right now, the people that we talked to really gave us some frightening information. The gunman apparently took 3 of the nurses, the receptionists and 2 nurses, into a back room. He said, I've shot 3 people. I have 1 bullet left. Who is going to get it? And he held a gun to a licensed nurse practitioner's head and then removed it and then left him in the room and walked away. Also, when we were speaking to you last, I was talking about the SWAT teams moving and repositioning. They had their weapons not drawn and their shields down because they were under the cover of a building. But when they rounded that corner again after crossing through the yard, they did again draw their weapons. They seem to be concentrating on a window on the top floor of the building. They saw some movement behind that window, and so they're looking at that right now.
And that would first indication that the gunman may have moved up in the building, which obviously would be of concern if there are children in an upper floor daycare, although parents have been told that they were safe in there. The gunman had not approached them. Let me ask you a question, Nina, about what you've heard inside that medical office. If anything squares with what we heard from Sean Yancey's interview with the woman who found the man standing in her living room with his gun drawn, and he was clearly agitated, saying that he wasn't going to hurt her, asked if she had children, said that he didn't intend to shoot or harm black people, but that he would shoot white people. Did you hear anything about from the people in the medical office about any kind of that kind of racial anger involved?
Actually, Scott, I did. The nurse that we were interviewing earlier that talked about the gun being held to one person's head said as the gunman was moving to doctor's office, there was a woman crouching behind and he told that woman, not you, sister, don't worry about it. Sister, referring to she is a black female, that is what her colleagues say. And he remains hiding, her colleagues believe, inside of the building in that bathroom. He let her stay in the bathroom and took the other 3 nurses, the 2 nurses, receptionist, to the room where he held them for a short time and then left.
Nina, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stand by just for a second with that chilling account of saying he had 1 bullet left and who was going to be next. We're going to go back to Jim Parsons. We're seeing Jim Parsons live. We're seeing his picture, a live picture of the situation. Obviously, the officers at this point in that situation not worried about being in the line of fire, but as Nina said, officers, as they move closer to the building and to different vantage points, do bring up their shields, do take a more cautionary posture. This camera is set up in the Eckerd parking lot, which would sit just on the east side of Penn Avenue. We're looking down the street along West Street, kind of across the parking lot into the situation where we've seen people in group being brought out of the building. Hands on head, again, that's not because they're suspects, but they don't know that the suspect may be in there. Jim Parsons is actually, we're utilizing all of our available technology. We're seeing a live picture, but we're going to talk to Jim on the phone. Jim, they moved you again back from where you were?
Scott, can you hear me?
I can indeed, Jim.
I can't get to the microphone.
I understand.
Because the police have allowed only our photographer up. He's told all the rest of us to stay back. Sir, can I come up now? All right, he's going to actually let me get to the microphone. Hold on a second here. Are you on the microphone now, Scott?
We're getting that, Jim. The officers that I'm seeing live here don't appear to be, clearly in a defensive posture. They seem to just kind of be standing around. But that shouldn't be taken as a sign of resolution at this point?
We don't know, Scott. Yeah. All we know is that officers say we are in the line of fire if we don't stay back. And so right now they've allowed us just to basically stand behind this Chevy Suburban. As long as we don't get out in the open, we're okay, they say. We know that the SWAT team has just moved in. And, it's uncertain at this point as to what we're seeing at the moment. We have talked, since I spoke with you last, I have spoken with some other officers. They say a total of 5 people have been hit. I don't know what the latest number you have is. 5 people have been hit, And the situation, again, as we reported earlier, may have started at the Woodview Apartments on Wood Street. I talked to another officer since we last spoke who confirmed that and said, yeah, it did start at the Woodview Apartments, and then a fire was set apparently to cover the shooting that happened there. Then they moved down Penn Avenue, and it all ended right here. Of course, the situation is not.
Jim, 5 is the count that we have. 4 people at Presby, 1 at Mercy. We did hear from Nina Pineda in an interview that you did not hear, accounts from inside the medical office where the man had come in, taken hostages for a time, told them that he had shot 3 people, and said that he had 1 bullet left and who was going to be next. Did then let those people go and moved on to that complex. Now, if he is saying shot 3 people, we don't know where the other victims may have come from, although that there may have been an exchange of gunfire back in the McDonald's lot. Let me ask you about something we've talked about with Sean and also with Nina. The woman who found the gunman in her home said that he intended not to shoot black people but only white people. Nina said that people in the medical office that he indicated the gunman indicated that he was not going to shoot a black female. That was. Are you hearing anything more about the racial motive situation?
I haven't heard anything about that at this point, Scott. Let me ask the police officer.
All right, we're going to go to.
No, he's not. He's in his orders.
I understand.
He's just giving out orders, but he's not allowed to share any information with us at this point. So we're just kind of standing here and.
We're going to let stand by, Jim. Right now, we do have some more tape that just back in from people about what they saw and what they heard at the situation on Penn Avenue. Let's go to that tape. This apparently is video that we have from the scene. I don't know about sound.
What went through your mind? We thought we better just stay put and stay away from the windows. And just a minute ago, the police came up and said, get out.
How frightening.
Yes, a little bit.
I mean, like, is your heart pounding? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, not something that happens every day.
Tony Caruso talking to witnesses scene, and it fits with what we have seen in this Penn West building as officers have secured moving people out in groups, some hands on head, some running as soon as they were able to get clear of the situation, and officers trying to get everybody back. Our crews trying to keep that balance, getting good information at the same time, taking precautions. Jim Parsons and his photographer kind of situated behind a big Chevy Suburban there in that situation. It is interesting, Nina. Jim Parsons probably had a live ground picture that we've seen. Jim, is there more movement of officers into that building?
Well, we just saw some officers, Scott, moving away from West Street. Edgewood police we saw Pittsburgh police taking off at a pretty fast rate of speed, heading north on Penn Avenue. So we're not sure at this point.
Let's talk about that a minute, Jim, because you said as we're looking at this map, we have Wood Street on one.
Hold on a second. If you zoom down the street here, Gary, you'll see some activity in those SWAT vehicles at the moment. Go ahead, Scott.
Activity down West Street by the Penn West building.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But you say activity also further at Penn Avenue toward the Burger King, where there may have also been activity.
Yeah, actually, the activity was going the other way from Burger King toward the Arby's. If you know Penn Avenue.
Sure do. And you, in your initial account, as you talked to different police sources there, that the gunman may, if we're trying to draw a chronology here, have gone from the Wood Street fire situation down to the Burger King before he went to the McDonald's.
Yeah, Burger King would be on the way from Wood Street to McDonald's. It's about halfway. So he would have started at Wood Street at the Woodview Apartments, where there was apparently a shooting and a fire, and then moved his way down Penn Avenue, stopping at the Burger King. And then again, this is what we're hearing. I'm not actually up at the Burger King, but from what I'm hearing,
that would be underneath the railroad tracks on the east, I guess the southeastern side of
the busway.
Right,
yeah.
On the busway. All right, I believe that we have Ted Coppy back at the UPMC situation for people at Presby. Are we learning any more about conditions there?
Well, Scott, certainly, right now they are all in critical condition. The staff is on what they call high alert at this time. Not sure if they're going to get any more, but certainly very busy with these 4 patients, all in critical condition. We're working with Mercy right now, trying to get an update on the situation there. Last week at Mercy Hospital, they had at least 1 in critical condition. May have been some more patients on the way, but that's the very latest for now, and we're going to certainly have more as soon as it becomes available for you, Scott.
Okay, Ted, thank you for that as we're kind of getting this as it comes in, and you're seeing it live as we're hearing it just about as fast as we can process it and confirm it. And again, able between with Jim Parsons, Nina Peda, and Ted Coppe, Sean Yancey, Tony Bruce, getting a good sense from the witnesses of a sequence of events to fit together. It is not a good one. It is a startling one, and certainly one of concern even right now. One of the things that Nina indicated was that officers were looking towards the upper floor. Don't know if when they looked toward a room on the floor, if that was because they believed the gun was there, or if they're trying to a way of escape, bringing people maybe in those floors out safely. They had concerned about the 2 people in the adult daycare center on the first floor. Certainly parents concerned about the children maybe in the children's daycare center up on 3rd or 4th floor. This situation, we have not seen any children come out of the building, removed from the parking lot. And just we've heard from Ted P.C. Parsons rejoining here. He is being told by the Presby 4 people in critical condition thing that would match the one sitting in critical. It doesn't clearly account to what we've done. We've got 3 people, 5 victims, but there may have been an exchange of gunfire at one point. Jim.
At this point, Scott, just saw more Pittsburgh police SWAT around on the scene. Not sure why, but they're talking with the manager of this drugstore.
Did tell me that he had talked about an hour after this, so giving me a question anytime.
Yeah, they're talking to him now. And as you can see some West Street. Again, we're looking west down West Street from.
This is a picture of exactly that situation. I will tell you, Jim, what I'm seeing, the officers are walking. There does not seem to be urgency. We do see officers carrying equipment near in the middle of West Street there, but it doesn't look like they're asking for any kind of movement at this point.
Hey, Scott,
yes,
we
sir.
just learned information here from police that inside the drug store, a woman whose twin sister is inside the building, apparently trapped, and that the woman who's inside her is able to call in. I'm still looking here through this window on the cell phone. She is able to call her every 15 or 20 minutes and speak with her. Since SWAT team members, negotiators, are now with that woman, it might indicate that the woman she's speaking with may be the gunman. On the other hand, she just may be somewhere in the building and is unrelated to the gun. But we do know police is now having phone conversations on a regular basis with witnesses who is trapped. Those words by the Penn West.
It certainly fits. There probably are a number of people in that situation because we've only seen, as far as what we've been able to see, maybe 15 or 20 people escorted out of a very large complex of offices, so it could be dozens of people still inside of a number of offices there. They were talking to the manager inside the Ecker, Jim, as you were saying. I talked to this phone live right as again fully now, more than an hour ago. We're about 90 minutes from the beginning of this situation. He said someone ran into the Ecker drugstore, said that somebody shot in the... I'm going to start my counting here and to bring you speed on that, but we do have one on the phone. Debbie is her name, and we're saying that Debbie Sivitz, you are actually inside. Debbie Schulman, you are inside facilities involved here. Debbie, where are you?
We're in offices of Home Health and Civil Hospital. We're in the building, and all I know is that the police know we're here and that we're safe.
And that is a good word indeed from your report on the 2nd floor, and certainly the police will be glad to hear that as different people have been trying to call to get reports. Give us an idea of how many people are in your office, and have you given any, obviously you haven't even heard from police at this point.
Actually, there are 10 of us here, and we told one earlier, about an hour ago, and we let them know just to make sure that somebody was here. But since we don't have a radio or a television, really no data what's going on or this gunman is, just want to be sure that nobody forgets us.
Debbie, we believe that he is in the building. We know that he went into medical office on the 1st floor, took hostage there at one point, released some of them, maybe hold hostage. We don't know if he is still in that part of the facility or not. Tell me what you did here. Let's take this back to the beginning. You may not know that there were shootings in nearby locations, one on Wood Street, one at the McDonald's, and then an account of 3 shots out of your facility. What did you hear as it began?
Well, we heard gunshots. We heard 3 gunshots out of office. We went to window, obviously, to see what was going on, and there were me there. When we're behind cars across the street. Obviously, they're unready, so we assumed there was something going on downstairs, and we immediately came into back of our office away from the window.
You say 10 people in your office?
There are 10 of us.
Staff?
10 staff people are here.
And on that 2nd floor, it's to get a sense, we've heard there's an adult care facility on the floor beneath you, and there may be a children's care center on the floor above.
I don't think the children's daycare center, no, but there is.
Well, we've heard from parents that there is, but
there is one next to Wilkins' house, and there is an adult day program on the 1st floor. I don't know if there were people in there. What we are hearing is that our spouses are calling and telling us that the building has been evacuated. Now, we are aware it's possible that we're just safer here, but there is a door that is in our office, and we just want to make sure that everyone knows.
Debbie, we thank you for that.
Gunmen.
Exactly, and at this point, it doesn't seem to be monitoring what's going on. Kind of a chaotic series of movements by him that may have taken from the scene at the Woodview Apartments on Wood Street to the Burger King, the McDonald's, down to Penn West. Again, everybody reporting 3 shots fired there. We know of 5 victims. We know that the gunman told people he himself had shot 3 people and had 1 bullet left. What Debbie told us there could be an important thing that she was hearing from somebody in her office, that the children's daycare facility actually is in town. The reason that may be good news at this point is that what we have heard is that there is no interior pathway between those. Sean Yancey is joining to get a better idea of sharing about kids inside Wilkins' house. Sean.
Scott, now I'm on the other side of the extra from where you've been seeing Jim Parsons,
Sure.
and I just talked to a tearful mother. He's been trying to call into the daycare center. He got through a short time ago. He was able to confirm that the kid's all right. The kind of ages we're dealing with inside the daycare house. 6 weeks old, now 6 years old, pre-K and a kindergarten in there. She's a 6-year-old. She is obviously terrified because she doesn't know what's happened. She said the work inside told everyone was okay. They had to get off the line and keep it clear to them to make sure everyone inside. And I think here's other parents that are coming up trying to comfort her. There are more parents here that are obviously the kids that are inside.
Do we know what number may be in there?
She says there's typically kids for care. She's actually there today, but that's what she said on a typical day. And there are about 5 or 6 animals standing by. Hopefully they will be, but that's from the side of the Wilkins.
The children's daycare facility in the Wilkins house, is that on the lower floor of that facility or not floor?
No, Scott, I'm not exactly sure where this is going.
And what you can tell them, Sean, that I learned from the manager of Wilkins that may be of some comfort to them against their situation is that there is no interior connection between the Wilkins house facility and the Penn facility. So if the gunman is in the Penn medical facility there, that it may be difficult, if not impossible, for him to get into the Wilkins house section. Nada have been able to give us some of the most chill accounts you've had since this all began 90 minutes ago. Let's go back from her vantage point.
But I was just going to make it outside the perimeter by cutting in between some house to our truck. I want to go see the fresh videotape from inside the perimeter.
We've lost audio for a moment. As we're looking at some of the video. We have seen video right at the beginning. We get video in, and clearly people kind of in a defensive mode. This live shot along west next to that building, the Penn Central, the Penn Way. This is the old hospital, by the way. And the Penn West Medical Facility, clearly we've talked to people on the 2nd floor, standing people on the hospital saying they're standing by waiting to people. Nina, we do have back and you're afraid. What did you see?
The lady that we were talking to that had been escorted by police, I think there were bullets in the ASAS gunman. Before, after doing something in Rebecca Street and started shooting, and we noticed all these shells. They were very taken up. They didn't know if their colleagues did out, the doctors didn't about, and their friends, they found back and taken by gunpoint. 2 of them, and they were able to get out, but they did have guns head. And as earlier, the gunman did say, "I will left. Which one is it going to be? I've already shot people." So they're still over there. The other side of Sackey, they're on the street waiting for word on able to get out of the building.
Obviously, just hard to even fathom that kind of pain. When you said that there's another building firing shots, which building are we talking about?
There is a building behind the McDonald's, and that's inside the police perimeter.
What kind of building? An apartment building?
It's an apartment building. It has glass front, and apparently there's a back entrance. When he's being pursued, apparently ran through that building, and there's shells on the steps in the foyer of that. We didn't even notice until we were standing there. That's where police put them in the area, which was still within the perimeter. Street, probably just around this corner.
We talked with the men from inside the hospital. He was saying it looked to be a small caliber gun.
He described it as a 22 caliber gun. He also described the man to very calm demeanor. Thought at first it was a patient that maybe didn't know where he was. And man, can we help you? Are you up here? Then when he saw the man start rounding up, keep saying, "You are all 3 of you come with me. I'm going to shoot somebody." They got there to that point and realized that it was not a patient indeed.
When we clearly have a man who's was just terrified. Tell me a little bit more about what you're hearing. Talking man, old man.
They said the man in his 20s. They told me man in his 20s who was there. And the Bill witnesses say that he seemed agitated, and what now is crying and praying.
I bet.
One that was he seemed agitated, seemed like he wanted to hurt somebody. We're finding out that he's apparently hurt several people here on the scene.
Right, we do have a 5 critical condition, and then if he said he hadn't left, nobody has reported hearing another shot. Would that be correct?
Scott, when they came back outside, the police with their weapons on it, and raging around it, looked to see on the 4th floor of the building on the side. They saw some movement on the window since the earlier one.
And could be movement just by people in those buildings and offices trying to get out. You said at one point the gunman actually did put the gun to the head of one of the people in that medical office?
Yeah, it was an LPN, and she is just so shaken up. We have some children coming out here. We're going to go right to the video.
This would be an encouraging situation. And are they coming out of the wet building? All right, we've lost that live connection. Our Sky 4 for the situation. The first scene of children being moved out of these facilities. We've seen we've seen adults coming out in groups. We see children being brought out. We have a kind of an unstable grade. We could go back to Sky 4 for just a second, and if Scott Stiller and Sky 4 could zoom in down to that situation on West Street as close as they can get. This would be an encouraging sign for children, and it does seem to be kids with their hands in the air is the kind of thing that breaks your heart. Again, we would know would be that the daycare facility for children, from the facility, they have been maybe third floor, and there have been just different reports. This may be the kids from that third floor in the Wilkins house. The parents telling our Sean Yancey maybe 50, 60 kids at a time in there. The residents at Wilkins house, a senior apartment facility, have been kind of just to kind of stay inside their homes. Clearly, the desire to get the kids out. Kids from Sweek, some years of age, those walking out, and the kids have to be certainly scared. But if they're coming out now, this will be a very big parents who have nervously waiting many inches across us from Penn Avenue in this situation. We have been obviously trying to put together the information about victims, about what might happen next, and wish we had some way to tell you that the situation was resolved or controlled. But right now we don't know that to be the case. It looks like one group of people are coming out of a door right along side West Street there. We've got a good map here now that Mike Stone in our weather center is. Now we have right across the street. You can see from the campus, we're kind of pan real quickly away from the scene on Penn Avenue. Where we saw a group of perhaps people who'd been taken out of the building. This is a live shot not along the street. Next guy, where you're seeing Penn Avenue right alongside. That is the perimeter. We're full of parents, perhaps worried for children, and waiting. And this may be the scene they've been waiting for, the relief of having their little ones in their home, sure that they are safe. That is not people who have friends, family members who work inside the Penn West building. People in contact by cell phone. Jim Parsons talked about a woman, twin sister inside the building. We talked for the folks inside the hospice facility. For the 10th member telling us they just wanted police to know that they're there, that they're waiting, they're down and back away from the windows. And right now, from the most intense, the full medical off on the first floor, the gunman came in hostages. The gun to the head of a nurse there and said, "Who is going to be the next this last book?" Nina is back. Nina, I had a good vantage here with Chrissy, but did look like these may have been the kids from that daycare center in Wilkins' house.
Yes, we did, Scott. We were right here on the side of the road when they came out the sidewalk and moved in front of the Crossroads convenience store, and also by the there were some parents that were over there. Also, we saw police see each other out. It looked like there was about a dozen or more long teachers and counselors. The police have moved us behind. We were standing the other side before watching the kids. There's some cops for a long because they moved all the reporters and the people standing here behind the vehicle. So good to get out. We saw perhaps 2 dozen people, a long stream of very small children, some being carried by their teachers and media parents. So what a relief for the parents.
And as they kept reporters and people out of perimeter, and I know that you are going to put in a good guess exactly they can. You were inside that perimeter, very close to the building at one point. Were you by?
I was and able to show you this big at 5 and 6. Seen a little bits of it already, right. But he was the only by police perimeter ever escort people out, and we were only able to get out by people's homes to get to the other side. And now, of course, we can't get back. My colleague Jim Parsons, he does some stuff.
Okay, let's bring him and a team of reporters who are gathering lots of information from a number of sources.
I don't have any feedback here. We like police. Gunman apparently still with us. He's alive. That he is a relative of his seen to help them negotiate during his bill.
So for relative by the scene, we didn't know who it is.
Well, we have heard a name on the police scan, but we don't have the name, so I'm not reporting that at the moment. We know that police who knows Jim and down Wilkinsburg said that his name is Dante. His first name is Dante, but again, we're not asked because we don't have it confirmed at this point. But apparently, he's running out of the scene, help negotiate and he
described Jim as a muscular, 20s, very calm in demeanor. I think that you saw the children get out. You were the shot there. Were you able to see reunions of parents?
No, we're actually inside the perimeter. It's about every camera out there. Police have allowed us to see here as we started here. So here you're seeing the children going in as close as we can get. Went over that Crossroads store, and that's where they seem to where they're being reunited with their loved ones.
I'm going to ask you because I'm going to move in the studio for a minute and I'll away from you, but I think it'd be helpful at the point we were on there for a 9-minute situation began 2 hours ago. Walk us through the time that you understand.
Well, the situation is I was in the newsroom at and we heard the information coming over here. I'll head down here. As snow is very close to we got here before most of the police officers did. There were Wilkinsburg pieces, or maybe half a dozen. In the corner of West and Rebecca, guns drawn. We left on situation. Guns were drawn. Police officers were saying to citizens to stay down behind their vehicles, the ones who were inside. And they were yelling at apparently the gunman who was inside. On the back side, if you're on Penn Avenue, the back side of the Penn West office building, we saw the blinds move. They would scream. Officers were definitely agitated and pointing up, and they were screaming for how to get down, to not stand by the window. There were ambulances. It was very, very chaotic. Then a situation of calm started to prevail a short time later. We have on Yancey with us here next, and she has one with her that I think she'd like to introduce to.
Right, and this is Joni. Joni, your sister was inside of her. Tell us what she said, what was going on.
She was a patient president, or the last talk from the building. believe she was injured while she was there because we communicated via cell phone 10 minutes. And
this had to be pretty scary for you. No, it wasn't. I'm very sorry. So you think that she's been evacuated?
I believe I saw her being evacuated from the building.
Did she tell me about what police were saying to her when we were inside?
Apparently, there were no police actually on her floor. Except for the building that's adjacent to the building the suspect was in.
Okay. But everything seems okay.
I have some comfort when I see her.
Thank you very much. Then I'll back off to cars.
Okay, we're looking back now at the keeps. I know we don't have feedback. We're looking back at a minute, Gary. Just take a look. Down West Street. The situation at this point is we go Sky 4th and Sky 4th this moment.
Jim, you cannot see, but I'm seeing Sky 4th. There were 4, maybe 5 officers slowly moving to the entrance and then slowly moving into the building. Another officer coming up right behind him at this point. I was looking to see if maybe they had a relative, the person that we related to, but it did seem that they were all officers from the point of where I am.
I'm sorry, policeman had us say hello. I don't see anything happening there at the moment.
It held down. I will tell you, talk about it that is, I'm going to say 30 yards past the ambulance that you can't see. You're down west and see that ambulance from your family. Yeah. 30 yards down, there's a side entrance there, and the officers did that building slowly, guns drawn, clearly analytic materials at that.
You know, that entrance you're talking about there, that's Rebecca, and that is where we first arrived at the scene at 10 to 12. When we first arrived on the scene then, where officers were yelling into the building, apparently yelling at the gunman, yelling at citizens, and that's where ambulances first arrived to, not to the Penn Avenue side, but the side, that's where you saw those officers going.
Okay, thanks. We're going to come back to you just we have Teddy at Mercy Hospital. I believe Bob, we've been paying medical there.
I think the people here say that they were in condition. The 65-year-old man arrived from Wilkinsburg. His injury, a single gunshot wound to the head. He's been here for some time. The hospital has so far not received any additional victims, but they have been told to be on standby specifically, if necessary, to receive 2 or 3 additional patients. Now, that necessarily an indication that there are other people yet to be transported. There's a coordination that is underway with emergency management right now with hospitals in the area, and Mercy part of that coordination, emergency room ready to receive others. Hopefully there will not be other injuries, but they are prepared for that. So once again, a 65-year-old man told from Wilkinsburg in good condition with a here at the hospital.
Bob Mayo, Mercy Hospital, is first of the nature of the wounds. You've heard that county 4 people at the UPS also in condition. We don't know who those people are just yet. The standby reports, both Mercy and Presby have been expected, but we've not seen ambulance. So this process, our Sean Yancey, who had been down there very soon, saw 4 ambulances at least. That's our coverage now is approaching 9 for just 2 hours. We've been shooting happened along Penn Avenue. We do have a picture in the back of Long Avenue. We've seen officers been trying to move people back away, taking kids out of the parking lot, trying to calm people down, and trying to get information. The SWAT team members are moving in position, which is what we're seeing now. We don't have audio connection. We just have the video connection to this. They're moving in careful coordination in a line around this Penn West building along Penn Avenue. It is clear that from what we saw from Sky 4 live minutes ago and from this right now, they are moving in. Now, it does not mean that they're leaving. They have a way to get to the gunmen. I do understand there's now tape that was just fed in. So while you were seeing the word live there, what you saw was on tape. And so as the officers move in with heavy with shields up, that may not mean a confrontation with the gun. That may mean bringing people out, bringing people safety. We know people who are waiting in that hospice on the 2nd floor. We saw dozens of kids brought out of 3rd floor daycare center in Wilkins House. So they pull out a group of people who are in worry and in fear for this last 2 hours. Maybe some of that from Welland Way to bring the people out as they get safety. The thing you have to remember is the nerve of the gun. And at the same time that he has told people that he only one bullet. The people that there has not been an echo of gunfire. The first shot outside the Penn West building. The first indication of shooting came from the McDonald. That was about. Then it seemed maybe it was in a home along the street. And as we're looking at the tape of people being brought out and attended to, medics check who may not be injured by gunfire confrontation, may into agitation and shock. Checking vital signs to make sure that everyone is okay. Remember also that the 10 people were clients of the adult daycare on the 1st floor. Some of them dementia, some of them from stroke, some in wheelchairs. So it is a difficult group to deal with and to reassure families that they're okay. Again, this videotape from the scene going forward to we've had of this situation that has shut down part of Wilkinsburg for 2 hours. The gunman, we don't know why, other than the woman. A small part of the residents near the scene said that she found staying in her and said that he would not hurt intention and hurt white. We do know that when he was in the medical office that he indicated to them there that he was not only issue of a female who was in the house, echoing some of the similar accounts. I'll tell you that in situations like this, live situations like this, witness accounts often vary dramatically, and we often get a wide variety of timelines and factual accounts. This has been, as of 2 hours, not so here. We had a great unanimity among the people who said, "What's on the matches together." Let's go to the tape.
It looked like you were holding a child, quite alarming, but I saw how...
There's a child there.
How...
We have people with dementia in wheelchairs.
What happened? When did you first learn? What did you just have now?
We've been putting ourselves behind cars. About an hour, yes. Did you bring up? It made us suspect, yes, it is.
What do you think of this expand?
I don't know. I want to be sure that everyone's safe.
What is your name?
Nancy Marin, Eastern.
Nancy, obviously, from the first floor, and you heard her say that it was in a children's daycare. You may not have been aware the children's daycare is the Penn West building in Wilkins House. And good Lord, the parents, we don't know if all the kids, we did see large children coming out earlier, so the Wilkins before years are hands in the air. We have learned that the Wilkinsburg police chief is going to be on check in about 10 minutes to try and give some of what's going to be happening. So as soon as that gets away, 6 or 7 minutes, go back. People who are just joining us as our record of this terrifying situation continues. There's been a series of shootings, hostage taking, now a standoff of some kind, right in the heart of Wilkinsburg, right along Penn Avenue in the old Columbia Hospital, now the Penn West building, medical care facility that adjacent in an L structure to the house. Neighbors, people in the work area, able to live for the period of time to try to deal with this, and the man with the gun, a man told that he shot people, 5 victims, all reported in critical condition at this point at a variety of local hospitals. 6 residents were told with that single gunshot wound to them. We don't know, again, how this would view apartments on Woodby. But Jim Parson, the one hearing that they're there, and that then the gunman lit the place on fire, perhaps in an attempt to cover that. And again, I would say that we have not heard an official word, and maybe when we're able to get back to him, we'll know if this was in a residence on the north side of Penn Avenue or on the south side of Penn Avenue, but along Wood Street. You see it there, right? Just off the middle of your screen to the right. Wood Street may have been where this started. And then we hear that the man may have gone to the Burger King, which would be just to the right of Penwood Avenue, on the right-hand side of what would be the railroad overpass there. Then we know that he went to the McDonald's, and we heard from patrons who were just having lunch inside the McDonald's. They saw a confrontation in the gun. They were shot. People ran into the Ecker drugstore across the street, saying, that's later 3 shots fired up outside of the house. Sean, you see one of the very first people down at the scene, and we're going to go back to her live now. Sean, what are you learning?
Scott, still in very tense moments, but we just heard that the suspect, the apparent suspect's brother and sister have been brought here on the scene to try to talk the suspect out of the building. Police right now are trying to move them in place and establish contact with the suspect. Again, his brother and sister are here on the scene. We will have more information for you as it becomes available to us. Scott?
Sean, that would obviously be encouraging news to the people who have family or friends inside the building. Do we know, though, if they've actually had contact, direct contact with the gunman?
As far as we know, police are still trying to get them in place and actually try and establish some kind of contact with the gunman. But at this point, we don't believe they've had as of yet.
But a brother and sister brought to the scene. And when you say contact, are we talking about taking the relatives inside the building, or will this be an attempt to maybe perhaps make phone contact?
I think at first, Scott, they will try to establish some kind of a phone contact, because I don't know that they've exactly made contact with the gunman yet. His brother and sister are here, and I know they're hoping to get that done as quickly as possible to resolve this whole situation.
Do we know at this point, Sean, about how police feel about the situation, calling this a hostage situation? We know that the man took 3 hostages at one point from the medical office on the first floor, released them, but never does account for what was in the medical office. The doctor's office manager believe that he's still holding hostages?
Police are not, they're being very tight-lipped right now about that, Scott, but I believe most of the situation, taking this very seriously. They're still treating it as if he may be holding someone in their hostage. They're not saying exactly, but they're doing that very cautiously and taking all the very precautions to make sure everyone inside the building is safe.
And clearly, we hope for a little bit more news conference. Some 3 minutes now. Wilkins, and we're going, and obviously Wilkins officers the first time shooting scene there, which involves state police, SWAT, city police, Edwood police, a large number of Sky 4 has been getting spill around several. The worst of these situations, we have just a lot of phone connection there. But our team has been able to get perspective from all this, from Sean and from Jim, who was perhaps to get close to the scene of the reporter, the perimeter with her topper as people were out of the building, and some of the riveting that we have seen. Nina Pineda has been talking to a number of witnesses, and some of the video that we've been showing you has been unedited, and that accounts for sort of the herky-jerkiness, but it is certainly giving you a sense of the chaos that they feel on the scene. And again, this may be... and we're getting some tape in of some more witnesses, but I want to talk to Jim Parsons now about what you're gathering there. Jim, I did see that those officers entered the building, but we haven't seen them come out, I don't believe.
No, we haven't, Scott. I'm told by police on the scene that the gunman's brother and sister have arrived on the scene, and that they are we don't know if they're actually having conversations with the gunman at this point. We don't know what the status of the gunman is, but that the brother and the sister are on the scene. We know from looking down West Street, we're across Penn. Looking down West Street, as we're looking down West Street, we see police officers standing around, which is different from what we saw just about 15 or 20 minutes ago when they were all crouched. They seem to be relaxed at this point. I don't know what that means. We have some other information that we can share with you at this point, Scott. I just spoke with Dan Pratt, our video journalist, who was just over on Wood Street with Sheldon Ingram. And I think Sheldon's going to be able to tell you firsthand about this in a minute. But Dan has just told me that as they were over there where this apparently all started, on Woodview Apartments on Wood Street in Wilkinsburg, apparently this gentleman, this gunman, lives at the Woodview Apartments. He was having some maintenance work done on his apartment this morning. He was upset with the maintenance workers, this is according to neighbors, witnesses, and opened fire on one of the maintenance workers. And then the situation just escalated from there. The gunman left the apartments, worked his way down Penn Avenue, and continued shooting.
And so if he torched the facility, he was torching his own residence at that point.
Exactly.
I asked Sean this real quickly, Jim. She was telling us that perhaps the brother and sister were being brought into the scene.
Okay.
Did this seem to be, from your indication, that they were going to be taking them into the building, or this was going to be an attempt to make some kind of phone contact?
Well, of course, you know, we don't even know if
they've had any contact.
We don't know what the contact. We don't know if there's been any contact at all. We just know that that they did bring these relatives, this brother and sister, on the scene, perhaps to help. You know, my experience with these situations, I've covered a lot of them over the years, Scott, is that when police officers start acting as relaxed, Gary, if you can show viewers as relaxed as they are right now, it would tend to indicate that we're in for a long haul here, that it may be quite a long time before before the situation is over.
And I would echo that, Jim. The only thing that I would add is that we have seen these officers kind of in a relaxed posture at that corner at the very same time that we have seen officers intently, guns drawn, shields up, entering the building. So for those of you watching
what I'm talking about here, though, is I'm not talking about these officers right here on Penn Avenue.
Right.
I'm talking about a half a dozen officers who are further down Wood Street, standing right in front of the back part of the building where they think the gunman is located.
Yeah, where West and Rebecca meet in the corner back around.
Exactly. If you can take a look now, you'll see a SWAT team officer crouched down behind a Pittsburgh police car with getting a weapon ready at this point.
Yeah, we've seen them preparing weapons. We've seen them putting on the bulletproof vests and the helmets as we've gone back and forth from the ground shot to the live shot. What you were hearing on the from our photojournalist Dan Pratt there about the situation on Wood Street where this may began. I want to come back here if we can into the studio because I believe we have Sheldon Ingram in place, and Sheldon has been down covering an aspect of this, and so. Before we're going to get to Sheldon, we want to hear from the witnesses. Some tape just fed back, so this is, again, unedited tape of the people on the scene about what they saw and what they heard.
One of the nurses in Metro Family Practice, these two girls came out and I could tell something was wrong by their face, and he called me out of the room. I thought maybe he was one of our patients, and he had the gun at the side, and he took the three of us in the back, and he said he had one bullet left, and which one of you three should I use it on? And then he was looking back and forth, and then he pointed it at one of the other girls' head. He had pointed it at all of us, but I mean, he like raised it towards her head, almost touching. And then he ran into one of the examination rooms, and he closed the door partially and said, when this door opens, I'll be gone. So we thought he was going to shoot himself. They ran. I wanted to tell the two physicians in the back what was going on and warn them, and he bust out of the door and ran in the back and sort of pointed the gun at Dr. Freeman. And at that point, I ran upstairs to call 911, but I didn't realize there were units out here already. And everybody exited the building as fast as we could with our hands up as we were instructed, and went behind the cars, and the police were all very helpful.
What was going through your head at that point?